on Up Close. He may be the best quarterback who never made it to a playoff game. Two-time Pro Bowler Archie Manning reflects on his 14-year NFL career, most of which was spent with the adventurous Saints. He'll talk about his son Peyton and his opening day performance against the Dolphins, plus his thoughts on the quarterback picked second in the draft. And does he think Denver is on its way to another Super Bowl title? Up Close is up next.
From the ESPN studios in Los Angeles, here's Chris Myers.
Hi, welcome to the show. Hope you had a nice Labor Day weekend. It kind of feels like a Monday. The start of the NFL season, the start of a career for Peyton Manning, the first player, of course, selected in the NFL draft. And to talk about his performance and some of the other quarterback play, we welcome Archie Manning, former Saint quarterback and the Saint broadcaster for nearly 13 years, a dozen years or so. Nice to see you again.
Thanks, Chris. Good to see you and glad to be with you.
And we want to cover what it's like being a father in the stands, watching your son play. But let me first get a thought off of Monday night's performance. John Elway at age 38. We see him outduel Drew Bledsoe once again, back for more. He's won a Super Bowl. You went through a lot over your 14-year career. He looked young out there again.
He really did. John's such a fantastic player, and he was so talented coming into the league, but he hadn't appreciated much. I'm sure the knees hurt. He maybe doesn't move. He always moved around real well and was able to make plays. But I saw him, I've seen him twice in person in the preseason this year. It looks like his arm strength is the same as ever. Of course, he was just blessed with a real strong arm. But I think he looks more comfortable as a quarterback. Sure, he doesn't run as well as he used to. I think he looks more comfortable as a quarterback now in Mike Shanahan's system than I've ever seen him before. And I thought his play last night was unbelievable because the Patriots were bringing it, and they were getting close, but he had someone open, and he was able to get it to him almost every single time. He was really the difference. He played a great game.
When he was selected #1 overall, it was also by the Colts, and he held out. Didn't want to go to Baltimore at that time. Your son Peyton chosen overall #1 with Indianapolis. Ever cross Peyton's mind about control of where he might want to go when he was figuring contract and trying to get into position there?
Well, to be truthful, Chris, there were some people, some football people, some people, agents, I think some knowledgeable agents, and just people in general who advised Peyton that he should do the same thing and try to dictate his place in the draft. And we talked about it a little bit, but Peyton didn't. He didn't want to do that. And I'm sure John would think, well, I wouldn't want him to do that unless it was a situation. In John's case, if you remember, Jack Elway's John's dad did not want him to go play for a certain coach in Baltimore. Certainly, in looking at the situation, Indianapolis is a wonderful city. I mean, I've really been so impressed there. I've known Bill Polian, I've seen what he's done in other places, and I've known Jim Moore, and I saw what he did when he came to New Orleans. And Peyton saw that, and he looked at those things and said, look, this is a start-over situation. Sure, it's probably going to be a little rough at first, but I can be part of something really starting over in a wonderful city who's hungry for a winning football team. So I still think it's a good situation for him.
Peyton chosen #1, and of course Ryan Leaf 2. So quarterbacks go 1-2. It's only happened 4 times in NFL history. If we go way back, Bobby Garrett, Lamar, and Mechanic, they played for the Pharaohs. I don't know. And
I think it was the Chicago Cardinals.
Okay, there we go. And in '71, Jim Plunkett and Archie Manning chosen second out of Ole Miss, of course, going to the Saints. By the way, as you pointed out to me before the show, Dan Pastorini selected 3rd overall.
I think that was the only time there was the first 3 picks, but Dan's a good friend of mine. He was a 3rd pick. He went to Houston that year. Jim went to New England #1.
What kind of additional pressure comes with being chosen 1-2, whether you are the first guy like your son was or the second guy like you were?
Well, there's pressure there because there's great expectations throughout the city, the media attention. And then, usually in that situation, you're going to play early.
Because the team isn't that good there.
Sure, yeah, and that's pressure also. In the case a long time ago when Jim Plunkett and I were rookies, and Dan Pressler, we all started opening day just like Ryan and Peyton did this past Sunday. I think there's more pressure on Ryan and Peyton, though, than there would be in years past.
Why?
Because the game is so complex. And I saw an interview with, I think it was Brett Favre, Troy Aikman, John Elway, and I believe Cordell Stewart. It was a roundtable discussion a short time back. And they were all, I thought that, I just hadn't said it because it might sound like some premature excuse that I would make for Peyton. But they were saying they couldn't imagine being a rookie quarterback in the league today. And I think what they're talking, I know what they're talking about. They're talking about the specialization and the complexity of defenses and all the things they give you, the blitzes, the protections that quarterbacks have to know, the zone blitzes, the new things that are coming in. And I think John Elway said He said by the end of the year, those guys are going to want to give that money back and just try to get out of there, which I think is their respect for how complex the game is now. So I think it's a tough deal for these two young guys.
Learning on the job. Let's look at your son Peyton and the performance against the Dolphins and on Sunday, and the numbers were there: 21 of 37, 302 yards and a touchdown, but 3 interceptions in a defeat. And you were there watching. Before we talk about Peyton's performance, let's talk about what you felt in the stands as a helpless parent.
I didn't do very good. I'm a little disappointed in myself because I've been there before, and I try to be calm. I've been doing this since kid. I had 3 boys, and since they were Little League, and I've seen parents misbehave in the stands and not deal well, and I've always prided myself in kind of going into a stadium or to a Little League game or whatever in a mindset that I'm going to sit there and I'm going to watch the game.
And you've done a good
myself.
job of kind of staying out of things.
I don't know what it was Sunday, but I went to Indianapolis Saturday, and I was fine. I was excited for Peyton. He was excited. But when I got in the stands, and I didn't, the network had asked me to come up and be on TV, I said no. And I didn't think about the network really having pictures of me. But I was extremely, when the game started, I was extremely nervous for Peyton, more than I'd ever been before, I think. Maybe the same way his first start at Tennessee when he was a freshman.
How about as nervous for when you went into a game as a starter? More nervous?
The same thing. I mean, I felt the same way. I think more nervous because when I looked out there, and I've been around pro football now, playing or broadcasting for 27 years, I think I know a little bit about the game. I could look out there and see how tough it was for him. It was really tough. And it was one of the things he told me after he made it fine. He really did. And I don't go around bragging on Peyton. I never have, but he did really good.
You mean handling it all?
Handling it all. He played good. He made a lot of... Again, if people know me from the past, Chris, I've never gone around bragging on my children. But I'm going to just tell you, observing from a former football player, he made decisions in that game and did things, I think, beyond his years. And I'm sure Ryan did. I understand Ryan did in his game, too. But it was tough. And the Dolphins are a good defense. They did a lot of things. And the Colts, unfortunately, weren't able to run the ball, and that always makes it tougher on a quarterback. And that was the one thing Peyton told me after the game. First pass of the game he completed, it was kind of a little slip screen type of deal, but he said after that, nothing was easy. He said everything the whole day was really hard. And quarterbacking is not always like that. I think it is when you're a rookie, it is when you're young, it is when your team is not totally on top of things. But quarterbacking, it was easy for him at Tennessee for a lot of those years.
The emotion, the happiness, just that seeing him there, making it. Can you relate that to anything you've ever done in your career, or does it supersede because you're the father here?
Well, I'm just excited for him. I'm not as involved, or have not been as involved as maybe some people think. You know, I didn't groom Peyton to be a professional quarterback. He chose to participate in sports. His mother and I, his brothers, we just supported him, and we've just been there. He's had good coaches in high school. He had great coaches in college, and I've tried to just be his father. But he was very excited. And I mean, we're real proud of all the things he accomplished in college and the way he dealt with that. And to be the first pick in the NFL draft is a tremendous honor. And but he's worked hard himself to be there. He's had to handle a lot of things, a lot of pressure situations. So I think maybe that's where I didn't handle it very well. I should have just been there, proud to see him out there playing. As a result, I just got really nervous for him, and I'm really disappointed myself for kind of being like that.
Well, it's all right. You're a little out of practice. We're going to go back and talk about Archie Manning's playing days as well, and more on his son Peyton, and also Archie's thoughts on Ryan Leaf. We're up close with Archie Manning, who played 14 years in the NFL, and fans got to see him battle with the Saints all these years. Hang in there. We'll talk about Archie's first game when we come back. Don't go away.
And the winner, from Michigan, Charles Woodson.
And the most recent Heisman Trophy going to Charles Woodson. Even though Peyton Manning out of Tennessee came back for his senior year, was the favorite for most of the entire season. He finished second in the voting, and we're up close with Archie Manning, who you finished third in the 1970 Heisman Trophy balloting behind Jim Plunkett and Joe Theismann. You were also the favorite, I believe, going in for an injury. How disappointed was Peyton, and what did you tell him after that?
Peyton dealt with that real good. You know, Chris, that whole year being the favorite going in, and I mean, he had a good year, but it was a unique situation with a defensive player and a great player. And I told Peyton, and he really wasn't that disappointed. I think he was so glad for it to be over. And a lot of nice things had come his way, and I told him that Peyton, you've won a lot of nice awards. You played your senior year, you stayed healthy. And I said, you know, there's going to be plenty more things. Sure enough, I think 2 weeks later he was named the winner of the Sullivan Award, which is a fantastic award. He dealt with that really good.
And I think you'd rather take the #1 overall selection in the NFL draft rather than the Heisman. Let's talk about the choice. We're quite removed from that, but for our audience, Archie, you became legend at Ole Miss, and I think everybody assumed that your son was going to go to Ole Miss. He had choices, a lot of choices, but chose Tennessee. How difficult was it for you to be in that position? And you actually received, there were death threats, people threatening you.
Not really death threats, just some people got really upset about it. But no one that really counted. And I just think you've got to let your children make those decisions.
And that was Peyton's call all the way.
And it was, you know, I love Ole Miss, and that school's been, and the people in Mississippi had been so good to me, and just a lot of people just assumed he just had to go there. And he just wanted to look around and
was it part of wanting to be his own guy?
I think so, and I certainly understood that. We supported, he put a lot into this recruiting thing. I mean, he didn't know where he wanted to go, and he researched a lot of schools. He made all the visits, so his mother and I knew wherever he chose was going to be the right place, because he went the full route. He put so much into it. And so some people got upset, but and I guess that, you know, I think it's great. The SEC is pretty big football. I think it's great when people love their school and feel strong about it, but he made a good choice.
All right, 2 other sons. Cooper, who played some college ball before being injured, going to be married. Congratulations to him at age 24. And Eli, who's now a senior in high school at Newman High in New Orleans, and he's receiving attention from Tennessee, Penn State, LSU, and Ole Miss. Well, are you going to be through this again?
It looks like we're going through it. We've had a little experience, and it's just the same deal, though. Eli is he's looking at these schools, and he's honored, and we're honored that the schools are interested in him. And he's got to decide where he thinks he'll be happy in college for 4 years.
And it's one thing for Peyton to have to live up to what his father did, but now Eli's going to have an older brother and his father.
Yeah, it's not really me. I think it's Peyton. He's at the same school, playing the same position. He wears the same number, and I think that is a lot of pressure, and we've been concerned about that and tried to play it down. Fortunately, Eli's got a really good attitude about it. He's kind of a laid-back kid, and he kind of does his thing. He's really... The main thing is to enjoy your senior year in high school, Chris. It's one of the best years of your life, and playing high school football, it doesn't get any better than that.
And that's something that Peyton wanted to do his senior year in college, and I couldn't help but think of you, knowing that you were going to be on the show, when Mark McGwire hit home run number 61. Of course, his father's celebrating his 61st birthday and tying Roger Maris, equaling Major League Baseball history. But when his son Matt, when he came around home plate, he wanted his son there. His 10-year-old son was right there for him. And I think people wonder what it's like. You hope to be a father first, but when you're a professional athlete, whether your son wants to play athletics or not, how different is growing up for your son?
Oh, I think it's something you really have to be concerned about, especially if they're interested and they want to follow along, and what they have to deal with, you know, with teammates, or you go other places. And in Peyton's case, or my kid's case, I've been very proud of the way they dealt with it, because it's something extra there. That was a great picture, as you said, of Mark McGwire and having his child there. Just like Sunday, as I said, right, in Indianapolis. I didn't handle that too good, but overall, I was we were very, very proud of Peyton to be in that position. Back again, I was just very nervous for him. I knew it was tough out there.
All right, we're going to take one more break here. We'll be back to wrap things up with Archie. We're going to ask him if he'll go to the next Peyton Manning game. All right, don't go away. We'll be back in a moment.